to show just some statistics that would be interesting and that would be valuable to people watching.
Well, let me introduce you to everybody. I think a lot of people may know who you are because you have been in media for many, many years. But for those individuals who may not know who you are, I pulled a list of your clients, just a few names that I think that the average person would know just to understand the caliber and the experience that you have. So bear with me as I read some of these names. You have worked with Verizon, AAA, Costco, FedEx, Houghton Mifflin for educators. It's a very important company. Nordstrom, L'Oreal, Ralph Lauren, Hertz, Texas Oil and Gas, Bank of America, Ernst & Young, JP Morgan Chase, KeyBank, McCormick & Schmidt, Safeway, CVS, Blue Cross, Blue Shield. I'm almost done. Hilton Hotels, Marriott Hotels, Aflac, Allstate, Remax, National Federation of State High Schools, School Nutrition Association. I mean, that is just literally a tiny list of the companies that you have impacted and trained in every area. We're not just talking that you're a specialist in one area of business, but you transcend all businesses because the concepts that you talk about can be utilized in any arena. And so the people that are watching are business owners of many different fields. We have educators, we have entrepreneurs, we have students who are thinking about what their next steps are going to be. And so we are going to talk about who succeeds and who fails. And are we going to go back to things that are the same? Do we need to change the way we've been doing things? Do you think there will be some jobs that are obsolete? Are companies going to have to reinvent what they do? But one of my platforms as a candidate for CU Regent is I talk about utilization. When a graduate goes to college or a student goes to college and they graduate, the whole goal is for them to have a job the very next day. Otherwise, that degree is pointless, right? And they have thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt. And so we're going to talk about how we can ensure that when a graduate leaves college, that they have the new skills. Okay, we've been talking about this, but the new skills in order to be the most successful they can be. So with that, I am going to kick it off to you, Mr. Ross Shafer, 6-time Emmy Award winning TV host, comedian, and author.
Thanks, Priscilla. It's good to see you. And this topic couldn't be more hot than it is right now. I know several people who have children who are in college and they're just thinking, well, now, what job will be left? Will I even be able to go to an office someplace? Well, how will I work? Will everything be online? We're going to school now online. As you know, we have 14-year-old kids, so they're homeschooling through a portal where some of the content may or may not even be relevant, or the way they're teaching it isn't even relevant. And so when you mentioned these organizations that I've worked for, the message that I would like everybody at home to understand is everybody has the same problem. How do we find people? How do we retain good people? How can we keep them from going somewhere else? And do they have the skills that matter to me? Me being the company, whether it is 24-hour fitness or if it is Nordstrom, or you pick the company. I have about 3,500 clients, all with the same issues. And so now history is being rewritten the way we do today. We're just now opening up some hair salons and a few businesses in 16 states. What will that be like? So if you don't mind, I'll just jump into what it is that employers are telling me. And that is, before COVID, the number one problem that they were having is that they could not get people to communicate. We're in such an online digital world now, texting, blogging, emailing, FaceTiming, that what they really want are people who can talk. They want people who can actually communicate from one person to another. That will never be replaced, ever be replaced. And so I brought a little clip of Apple and Google and IBM and what they're looking for besides the skill to code, let's say, or besides the skill to just understand social media. Do you mind if I play that little clip of what they say?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. We should be able to hear this. Where is it? Where did it go? Oh, hang on.
You know, what's written down on
Here we go.
paper is what gets you to the interview, but it's communication skills that kind of get you the job.
I think one of the distinguishing factors that we look for in someone who can really fit in Google is really communication skills and working in a team or team working.
It's no longer just programming in a dark corner and all by yourself. Interconnected means you're teaming with others, you are interacting with others, you are negotiating to get that deal, you are trying to convince your boss you need that new server.
In a team engineering situation, you have to make sure that people understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how much time you're spending on it, and why.
I know plenty of examples of people who are in important jobs and in interesting jobs, right? And that have got there because they're just solid, good communicators. They know how to listen and they know how to speak.
They know how to listen and they know how to speak. He sums it up that what we need more than anything now are people who are really effective in the workforce. And something that young people should understand is that they're not waiting to hire you just to have you there. They're wanting to hire you so you'll contribute to profit. They want you to come aboard and understand you have a responsibility to make us money. It's not, you're not going to get a nice office and sit around in the nice colorful chairs at Google or at Virgin Money because they like just filling a slot. They want everybody to be lean. They want them to have skills, communicate, and understand you are there to help us succeed. It's
Now can I interrupt you there?
Yeah, anytime.
At the beginning, you mentioned this is more than just talking about understanding of content. And understanding of the hard skills of what employers are looking for. And when we used to talk about communication, it was face to face. But now that we are forced to speak through a screen, and you had mentioned in a previous conversation we had the ability to permeate through this box that we have. Okay. And that's what I'm hearing you say. It's even beyond communicating. It's the ability now we have to emote something through this lens because we are all hunkered down. And this is now our new reality of communicating and sharing who we are. We need people to feel and understand what our personality types are and those types of things. Can you share more, expand more?
Yes, absolutely. You nailed it. Everybody must understand that Skype and Zoom are just now something that we're going to be doing every single day. So when you describe we have to be able to communicate and emote through that, this is a practiced skill. I have about 3,000 hours of network television experience where I was trained to look into the eye of the camera and believe that there are really people on the other side. And there are too many young people and people who are now in their middle age they're talking to the screen and I think the camera is right here. And you can tell from my eye line, I'm not looking at you. I don't even know where to look, but I'll just keep talking as if the camera can find me. And that's not true. So for those of you who are getting introduced to Zoom, practice looking into that lens, getting yourself a little more animated maybe than you are in life so that you can penetrate that tiny little screen. You know, if you saw my screen, I have a giant arrow pointed to my camera that's circled in red to remind me that I need to look up here through that little thing. Don't slouch. When you're looking at somebody through a little camera lens, this is an audition for how well you can communicate. So don't be hunched over and keep looking at your notes down here. This doesn't pay, we aren't paying attention. That's why I have a screen back here so I can refer to things behind me with my computer. So
this is really, practical because we have students who are graduating literally next month who may have to do their job interview like this.
Yep.
And so what's going to differentiate them from other graduates who might not understand the importance of sitting up and looking into the camera and having the right camera height and being able to emote who they are through the camera. So yeah.
It's important. And if I were doing an audition for, or I would say I called it an audition, if I was doing a job interview through a camera lens, I would set up a monitor. Everybody has a flat screen TV now. Put yourself in front of the flat screen TV. Everybody has a laptop now, and put images behind you, because you should come across as a multimedia personality at this point. If they can't get enough of you just through the lens, show them who you are. Show them what you've done. Create little videos or create graphics that said, at my last job or in college, I got a 4.1 grade point average, and here are the kind of activities that I did. I was in the soccer team. I was in the debate team. Make that image powerful, because you're trying to sell yourself for a lot of money to an employer who's wondering if you are going to differentiate yourself above others. That's why I have the slide behind me right now. What they're looking for is world class. They really want expertise coming in. They're expecting you to come into the job running. You know, we hear about who are going to be the music stars of tomorrow, who are going to be the TV or movie stars of tomorrow. It's people who already figured out YouTube. They already have a following. They're going to bring their fans with them when they come to work. Well, if you're not a music star, you're not a movie star, what does that mean to you? It means that you have a social media presence, probably, and your employer is going to scour your social media presence to see what kind of a person you are. Don't put anything stupid there. Don't show pictures of yourself drunk. Don't show with your pants down. Don't do anything. Take that stuff off, because that will kill a job interview. Put things on that may be thoughtful, maybe your ideas about the work environment or the human environment. So use this media to your advantage so that you can be world class. I can talk about more of that, but because I want to bring up something, but
yeah, but before, I mean, it sounds like you're saying that we all need to become influencers in our own way.
Yeah, we do. It'll give you an advantage. If you want an unfair advantage over a competitor or somebody else who wants the job you want, then you got to up your game. You better be able to prove that you are worthwhile. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for people who can communicate and influence.
Okay. So do you have something next on your?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Okay, so
I feel like I'm a newscaster.
Yes, good. So here's what I would encourage anybody to start thinking about. And that is, don't just think that doing your job is going to get you ahead. Anybody can do their job. They can show up. They can fill their 8 hours. They can get their paycheck, and then they can go on vacation. And then they can do all that's what normal people do. If you want to be extraordinary, if you really want to be highest paid and a seat at the table where you're starting to make some decisions for your organization, whether it's in education or in corporate, or if it's an association or whatever organization you go to work for, then you got to be world class. And so I use a lot of examples from this. Sadly, we lost Kobe Bryant in a helicopter crash, and his daughter. The thing about Kobe, he achieved extraordinary things because he had extraordinary discipline. Kobe Bryant had this Mamba mentality, and the Mamba mentality said, if you ever see me in a fight with a bear, pray for the bear, because I'm not giving up. That is, I really would like people to start thinking like Kobe. Now, to be as good as Kobe, he had natural talent, but he didn't just rely on his natural talent. The guy shot 2,500 basketballs a day, 2,500, because he thought he had to go into every game being the very best that he could be. So let me just bring it down to those of you out there saying, okay, what can I do to be world class? What can I do? Let me show you kind of a formula, because this is a guy that I met a few years ago named Dave Hopla. He's a basketball player, but he's a guy who couldn't play in high school. He was too small and too slow, but he loved the game, wanted to teach the game. So he became the world's greatest basketball shooter. Most people may get 5 free throws if they're lucky in a row. Dave's personal best was 1,127 in a row. And so now he makes about $3 million a year coaching kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers, pro players, and college players on how to shoot a free throw. And they're all swishes. He doesn't believe that there should be a margin for error. So to do that, I'm going to show you what his formula is. I'm going to back this up so that you can see this. He's profound. and he has something to say for all of you out there. Let me show you what I mean.
There's only two things you have to do if you want to be the greatest shooter in the world. Number one is shoot the ball correctly. And number two is shoot it more than anybody else in the world, and you'll be the greatest. And that's where it comes down. Like everyone I say, how many of you want to be the greatest shooter in the world? Every kid raises their hand. Now I tell them they have to shoot 1,000 shots a day. A lot of those hands drop because they don't want to put the time and effort in. And doing things the correct way is always a problem as well. Because once we have a certain amount of success, we have a tendency to eliminate the things that made us successful.
I think that's just profound. You want to be great at your job, you have to do it correctly. You have to eliminate the margin for error. Dave thinks that the margin for error in his game is if you hit the backboard or hit the rim, because then the ball could go anywhere. So he believes in doing the job correctly, extreme discipline every single day. And the profound part for me and for all of you out there is that we have a certain amount of success, and then we tend to eliminate those steps that made us successful in the first place. That's stupid. That's why Kobe got up every day and shot 2,500 basketballs, because as great as he was, he wanted to maintain his greatness. And if you want to be amazing, if you want to be noticed by senior leaders so that you do get a raise, that you do get the job that you want, then you have to be extraordinary. And it will be an advantage to you, because most people, I'm going to tell you right now, are lazy. Most people are not willing to do what it takes to be extraordinary. They just want to get the job done.
No, so I want to affirm that, because we've had many, many conversations about this, because you're very generous with the information that you provide on your website. Someone can go to your website and there are free books to download. You've got excerpts of your workshops, and you freely give information, and you're clearly the expert, but people will still not go and do the work. Regardless of how much information you give them, they're like, it's the person that actually will apply the information that they're learning that are going to be successful.
I don't understand that mentality. It's just not like you or I would be, because we want a little more from ourselves. We'd like a little more from our life. But you're right. I don't know why discipline and doing it every day is such a problem. There's room in this world for everybody. I get that, but there are some out there who really want to change the world. Some who really want to, say, upgrade their home or upgrade their automobile or go on a vacation that they couldn't normally afford, or at least provide some financial security for their family. Well, that's not going to be a person who just goes to work 8 to 5 and complains or does office gossip. Those people are lucky to have a job, but that's being noticed as well. We're not invisible when we go to work. You think you're invisible, you're not invisible. People do notice, and they won't give you any responsibilities if you're not up to it.
You might get to this too, because as I think about who's working, and we've got some people who are at home working, they have the privilege of doing that. And then we have some people who really need to go back to work because, they haven't gotten their stimulus checks, or they haven't gotten their unemployment. And so, they're in a situation where they have to bring in some income. And we've got small business owners and mid-sized business owners who are thinking about the new reality of obtaining customers, because some people are not ready to go back out into society. Some people are not comfortable going shopping yet. Yeah. And so even if a store reopens, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a lot of revenue coming in right away. So there are a lot of things that business owners need to consider in this new reality. Can you share some of your thoughts about, do you think if a successful business reopens, should they be doing the same formula that they were doing before, or do they need to kind of reinvent the way they do things in their systems?
Priscilla, that's an amazing question. Great question. And the answer is no, you can't go back to the way you used to do it. Because I think as a small business owner, and you and I both are, that we can't wait to get back to what we did. And sometimes when you think that way, I know you and I don't think this way, but some people will think, okay, we'll just start up what we were, and the customers will come in and we'll do what it's whether it's customers coming in or customers that are online, we need to pay attention to them. And you and I have talked about this before. I'm Native American, grew up on a couple of reservations, and I was taught something as a young Indian boy that as I've carried with me throughout my lifetime. And it's always about being successful in the hunt. That's very important on the reservation. And so this applies to anybody who's in business. I was taught that we have to follow the tracks of the herd. If you follow the tracks of the herd, you'll always find what you want to hunt. But that's not enough. Then you have to pay attention to the herd. Where are they going? What are their behaviors? Will they be here next year? Or if are we going to have to go somewhere else? Well, our customers, our clients, our constituents are our herd, and their minds do change. And we need to be on the pulse of that at all time. Coming out of COVID, yeah, their minds have changed now. They don't know if it's safe to visit you. You're going to have to make it extraordinarily safe. If you're an airline, you're going to need to take people's temperature before they get on the plane. They're going to have to be wearing a mask. You're going to have to seat them 6 feet or more. You're going to have to convince them air circulation is very different now than it used to be. You have to convince them that we have cleaned this airplane in a way we never cleaned it before, and that there would be new rating systems for airlines or for any close proximity kind of business, so that we can feel trusted. Very much like they used to. I think they still have it where on outside of a restaurant you'd see an A rating or you'd see a D rating or what, so that the health department has deemed that you're okay. There are no rats in your place, let's say. So that's going to happen everywhere we go. Think about the organizations that people buy from now, that they feel safe to buy from now. It's the Amazon effect. It's the fact that Amazon, it's kind of no contact. We get our things, and even when a box comes to our home, we spray it down, we wipe it down. Is it going to be clean? Well, those kinds of practices should be adopted by anybody who has a small business today. It should be paramount that you understand, what do my customers and clients expect from me? It's not going to be just what you used to do. It's about safety now and proximity, and how will you convince me that you're doing everything you can do? That's a huge change. It's the reason that people buy from other companies. They'll buy from Hulu or the Comcast or the anything that might be digital, because that feels safer. If you're a restaurant, if you're a hair salon, convince me it's okay there, and convince the rest of us that you're thinking about me, not just about you making money.
Yeah, I think that's a good concrete suggestion to businesses that are opening up, to maybe email their clients and say, these are the precautions we're taking. Put signs on your door and say, we clean daily, or we disinfect daily. Or one thing you had mentioned is like say for example, Costco, which is a bigger store, or Walmart, to maybe have wipes or gloves or masks available as customers come in as an option, so that they feel safer. I know like a lot of restaurants and stores have put tape, and the post office has put tape so that everybody knows what the distances are.
Yes.
Those types of things surely make people feel more comfortable, safer, and so that will encourage more people to feel comfortable going out and shopping as normal.
You remember when after 9/11, we started seeing the TSA people at the airport, and it was such an inconvenience at the beginning of that, because it seemed like we're having to slow things down. Well, now it's just normal. We don't think anything of it now. We allow a little extra time. And I think that all of us would be willing to allow a little extra time if we knew safety precautions were being instituted for us. I have, and things won't bother us. I have a home remodeling company as well, and I went to Home Depot, and now Home Depot at the cash register has these glass shields in front of the cashier, and a glass shield in front of the payment terminal. I don't think anything of that now. I can see people, I can wave. It's just there's going to be a lot of new ways that we'll do business based on this, because we still don't know if this coronavirus is coming back in the fall.
Sure.
It's not.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up 9/11, because I was thinking about that too, how in 2001, the stock market closed, I believe it was for 4 days. And, airlines shut down. A lot of companies especially around New York City, and were shut down and highly effective. But, businesses had to have a new reality. And, I was curious, comparing and contrasting what happened in 2001 to what's happening today. The way we have to reinvent,
Yep.
it looks a little bit different, the different precautions to ensure people feel safe. But you're right, I hadn't thought about like the new norm. Like it's normal for us to go to the airport and have to take shoes off, take everything off. I wish more people knew what life was like before we had to do all that. It was amazing. But maybe, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to take place. And I don't know if we're going to have to talk to people through glass forever. But yeah, that is a new norm for us. So
there are some things that are really puzzling to me. I don't know how we'll get back to the movie theater experience. I've heard a lot of talk recently where people are saying, well, we'll go back to the drive-in theater where we can be in our car and we can watch the screen. But that real estate's gone. So what are we going to create, the new drive-in? I don't know. It's golf courses, for example. I can see why they might open up. It's wide open spaces. It's outdoors. It's sunny, and allegedly sun and heat is difficult on the virus. And beaches now are opening in Jacksonville. I think it's going to be very interesting what happens next. But it will be absolutely different. Workforce will be different. The things that we used to enjoy will be different. This is kind of the perfect environment for an introvert, somebody that doesn't like people. They could stay home, shelter in place for the rest of their lives if they want.
I think it's a great opportunity for young people. Like you mentioned, our kids are going to be starting high school this fall. So we have some skin in the game. We're talking about their future and what jobs are going to be there. Up until now, we've been talking about, we need more students who understand technology, aerospace engineering, cybersecurity, these types of things. But I'm wondering if there are other jobs that we're not thinking about, where at the college level, universities can start thinking about what courses, students, in another 4 years are going to need to have. What skills do they need outside of content? You mentioned just the skills of being able to communicate through this new technology. But I wonder, I know you don't have a crystal ball. I don't know.
I actually do. Because part of what my company does is study 18 different industries, from technology to farming and human relations and everything. So there's a word that I would love everybody to know. And the word is humology. It's humanity and technology married together. It is the world that we're going to see, even though people say, well, we're in the face-to-face business. Yeah, you are. But every organization now, especially now, has seen the value in technology. So if you go to a smart farm, for example, they're still milking cows, but they're milking cows with high-tech milking machines. They're measuring in high-tech container machines. Every organization now believes that the technology will keep them in business should this ever happen again. They can work from home, that technology, but we still will not replace humanity. And that is why at the top you said, well, we have to learn to communicate through this little lens. And that's the human part. Those of you who won't be able to travel in your sales jobs, better get comfortable with Zoom and Skype and go to meeting, because that will be the way that you'll be able to get out on the road and talk to people that would normally deal with. So sales skills will need humology. Farming and agriculture will need humology. Teachers will need it. Teachers will need to be television stars. They might be the television stars of tomorrow, because they're trying to convince and educate now through a tiny lens, because that will be the next wave. If it isn't, I know with my daughter, she's going through a lot of skills tests and so forth that are online, but she's really not seeing anybody talk to her. It would be the next wave to have big Zoom classrooms where a teacher can hear the students and that they can see a student raise their hand and answer a specific question. But the best teachers for tomorrow are going to be TV savvy. So that is a perfect example of having this humanity and technology marriage.
So I'm going to encourage people to go check you out and Google you so they can learn. Oh, I forgot to mention, like you were the host of the Match Game.
Oh yeah.
That was fun.
That was,
yeah,
I
watched a few of those episodes.
Oh yeah, they're still in reruns on the show network.
And a lot of people don't know that you are very good friends with Bill Nye the Science Guy, and you are the person who
created him.
Created. Discovered is not the right word. You created Bill Nye the Science Guy. Can you just take a minute to share that story?
Yes, I can. In fact, I can. If you can give me a second, I think I can bring the story up on a video.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that, I'll tell you that I met Bill 3 decades ago. Has it been? Yeah, he was a Boeing engineer, and he came in. I had a television show that I was just starting up, and I was hiring professional writers and directors and comedians and so forth to be a part of that show. Bill comes in, and he's from Boeing. And I said, well, why do you want to work on a show like this? Do you have the skills? And he goes, I just think I'll think of things you guys won't think of. Well, okay. So I'm going to see if I can get this up, because it's fun we created Bill Nye the Science Guy in a panic. It was a total panic. A guest canceled, and I didn't have anybody to put on the air. And Bill had been coming to the writers' meetings. And I was paying him $50 a week out of my salary just because he was quirky, he was odd, and he was trying out jokes in comedy clubs and so forth. Anyway, I looked to him every week. Do you have something for us, Bill? What have you got for us? He didn't have anything. He had no ideas for us. So then when we had this panic, what happened? Oh, I think this will come up. We had this panic, and Bill said, hey, you know what I can do? I can do something really hilarious with a tub of liquid nitrogen. I don't even know what that is. And he said, well, no, can you get it? And he says, yeah, 2 people owe me a favor. And somebody owes you a favor to get liquid nitrogen. It sounds like we've hired a terrorist, but we have 8 minutes to go before we go live on the air. He says, I'll get it. So we're trying to think of something else. We kind of forget about Bill. And then the producer says, he's got it. He has a liquid nitrogen. Well, what do I do? How do I introduce him? Just call him some sort of science person. And so I, on the spot, said, I'm going to introduce, this is Bill Nye the Science Guy. It just popped into my head because it was kind of alliteration. And if this video plays, you'll see the very first time he was on TV.
We are at home, we are at work, we're always constantly trying to figure out what can we do to make almost lives better. And what it occurred to us that we have not been having enough science on the show. Have we ever had science on the show? We haven't ever had it. Yeah. Not enough, is it? So we looked around. There's a guy on our own staff who has a degree from an Ivy League college, don't you?
Yeah.
Right.
It was a clerical error.
But it is from Columbia, right?
No.
Where is it?
The other one's from Cornell.
Cornell, okay. Carl Sagan was...
Carl Sagan and I were like, this, hey, Carl, hey, Bill, hey.
Yeah, that's what it was. So that's why we present Bill Nye, the Science Guy. And so I said, Bill, what could you do that would be science-like?
Well, it's just not that so much. I just realized how few people are using liquid nitrogen around the home.
Yeah.
See, we scientists go, Ross,
Yeah.
please put these on. You make me nervous.
Safety first, I guess.
Yeah, safety first, right. Now, for example, see how many scientists...
Okay, liquid nitrogen tips, household tips.
Household tips. Well, it's just what he's saying. Just for example, here's an ordinary onion.
Yeah.
Okay, now how would you dice it? You use a cutting board, maybe a knife. Take you a few minutes, right?
Okay.
Into the liquid nitrogen. Doesn't take long at all.
So what you can see about Bill is what I was talking about earlier about how this world-class expertise. We had no idea Bill did that. We had no idea he had that kind of thing inside of him. All we do is flip a switch and off he went. And afterward, I said, Bill, you've been sitting here for all these weeks and you didn't come up with anything until now? And his answer was, I thought you guys had already thought of that. Well, the point is, we can't think of everything. We need to rely on the people who work with us and mine their skills, their avocations, and then find a way to dovetail it into what we do. And then you get people like Bill Nye. He also put marshmallow in his mouth and blew smoke out of his nose. He was an instant hit. Absolutely made his bones, his career at that moment.
So I want to go back to when you were showing slides of yourself at 15, and you talked a little bit about like the herd mentality. I really want small business owners who are watching this to understand how important that piece of information is as they go forward, to be resourceful and pay attention to what people are saying. As a candidate, like the number one thing I need to do is listen to what people are talking about and hear what the community is saying so that I know what problems to solve. And so I think I would just urge small business owners and young people in college who are thinking about their next steps to start really paying attention to what's being said and listen to people who don't agree with you, and go to websites where people have differing views, because if you don't know how people are feeling about what's happening in the community, you won't know how to problem solve those things as a business owner, and your business could potentially become obsolete. The work that you are working so hard to do could become obsolete if you're not constantly being a problem solver. Is that right?
That's, I think, Priscilla, I believe that will serve you well in your new role as a CU regent. And for this reason, there are people who go into politics, or they become a board member, or they might be somebody who's competing against you, who has said, well, I'm a business person. I've done this. I've gone here and I'm a board member. Well, I'd say that's not the kind of person that you want. And here's why. People who are corporate leaders are used to a very small group of decision makers. They'll have an idea, they'll present it to the board, or they'll present it to their board of 6 or 3 or 4 people and say, well, don't you think we should do this? And they're inclined, the people who are sitting around the table, to say, yeah, oh, that's boss, that's a great idea. Yeah, I think that'll work. I think we should. When compare that to somebody like yourself who has listened to classrooms feedback, listened to parent teachers meetings coming in. So you're used to a lot of feedback from a lot of disparate people who brag about being a corporate leader that want to do something political, or they want to do something in the social world, have a disadvantage, in my opinion, because they're just used to hearing what they want to hear. They're used to hearing it from a very few people. So yes, listening is crucial. It is, it's the ability to ask the right follow-up question. And that in itself is an art. If there is a discussion and business people have an agenda, and then somebody asks a question, well, they want to get back to the agenda. They don't necessarily want to hear something that is different or something they don't agree with. So I think somebody coming from education has a huge advantage to pay attention to the herd and what the herd really wants, regardless of what you think they want. There's a huge disconnect with trying to manipulate the herd to suit your needs. It's not serving the needs of the community.
When I watch your video with Bill Nye, and I hear your story of how that just happened, and sometimes the best ideas come when you don't have to overthink, right? Yes. A solution to something. And in education, we talk a lot about Bloom's taxonomy and the levels of intelligence. Some people in education really understand Bloom's taxonomy, and creativity is at the highest level of intelligence, where it's just knowledge, like regurgitation of facts is the lowest, and you just kind of go up that rigor scale, right? Yeah. In education, we really strive to teach creativity and thoughtfulness and impulsiveness. I think it varies how you do that in what industry and what that looks like. This is just an open question about how I've seen some of your videos where the greatest solutions have come when we've just made things simple and we've created a solution to a problem. Can you just share with the listeners and the viewers about the strength of that?
Yeah, when you say underthinking, I couldn't emphasize that enough. What happens in organizations that are mature is that they assign steering committees. They assign people to support what they already want, and that's not valuable. It isn't serving the community. It's not serving the people. I'll give you an example of an underthinking problem that was solved by a person with no title and somebody that would never get in the boardroom. And it was that there's, everybody buys these little potato chips, the Tim's potato chips or Miss Vicky's potato chips. Well, Tim's happened to be one of those those companies that would ship out empty bags in a box to a convenience store. And they couldn't figure out the problem. Why are we they're sealed, they're puffed up, and they look like they have chips in them, but they don't. What kind of problem would cause, how would you have a problem like that in the first place? They assumed that they needed to get to weigh the conveyor belt and have a robotic arm sweep off the empty bag before it gets shipped out. And they tried that. Now they've introduced new technology. It's expensive. It was like $80,000 a machine. They still were shipping empty bags. So instead, the creative people that worked there said, well, who's not shipping empty bags? Is there a plant that's not shipping empty bags? They had a completely different approach to it. And it turned out in Kent, Washington, there was a foreman that never shipped an empty bag. So they went to, this is what happens in corporate. They go on the corporate jet and they go to Kent, Washington. They land at Boeing Field and they get off and they put their white hard hat on so they can go down on the warehouse floor and the manufacturing floor to see what happens. They see this guy named Kenny. And the reason he hadn't shipped any empty bags is that he put a Walmart fan next to his belt, his conveyor belt. And if a light bag came across the conveyor belt, the little fan blew it off. He had simplified and underthought an $80,000 per unit machine. And nobody consulted Kenny until there was a problem and somebody was smart enough to ask it in reverse. What's happening in corporate America now is that there's Agile and Scrum, where you're getting teams of people to solve a problem in 20 days. And they just blow it up. Tell us every idea you have. We have no rules. There isn't going to be oversight until we get to a certain part, but anything and everything is legal to talk about. And it's doing two things. It is allowing the best ideas to come forward that people in conventional wisdom would never think of. Teams or young people are working together to collaborate, which is something, as you know, as an educator, when we went to round tables and went away from the classroom style, there was more collaboration with round tables than there was in classroom. And then here's the big advantage for those of you out there middle-aged and still think you have to run the business the way you've always run it. Understand that young people will get excited if you encourage them like a video game. And here's what I mean by that. Our kids, your kids, my kids, they grew up on video games, and their first introduction to achievement and accomplishment was leveling up in the video game. And there was, I'm on 9, I'm on level 9 now. And my partner's he's on 13. How'd you get to 13? And then they collaborate to figure out how they get to the next level. So now those young people are working. They still want to have that short-term feeling. Scrum and Agile provide a 20-day solution. We're allowing you to be creative, help collaborate, figure this out for us. And at the end of that short period of time, they have that same endorphin rush that they did playing video games. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. I keep trying to get Kevin off of like all the video games, but I see the connection. Maybe that's a really interesting thing, because in education as teachers, we want to make learning fun, but we're concerned about the amount of time kids are on technology and what it's doing to the brain. But we're really going to have to start rethinking the amount of time that students are on technology, but also incentivizing them to learn, and that that carrot mentality, like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a motivation for me. And I know a lot of adults in the workplace are motivated by bonuses, and their performance is impacted by knowing that there's a reward at the end of a task. And so, I mean, that's another great helpful tip as we as educators are thinking about our new reality of how we can chunk the information and the learning.
That's there's a new word that I just have been acquainted with when you say chunk, is how can we make learning snackable? How can we make short-term quick wins? And that will have the effect, that'll have the video game effect that they need for motivation. That's what motivates most young people, not just millennials now are 40 years old this year, so it's not like they're kids anymore, but the generation behind them, the Z generation, is they just want to let me figure this out, but let me figure it out quickly, and let me work with somebody on this. So it'll be that balance again of humanity and technology, and we can motivate them that way, even incentivize them. We also now know that the young people are more incentivized by experiences than they are cash. So if the experience is something they can post on social media, look where I am, look what I'm doing, look who I'm with. That's more motivating in the short term than waiting for a 6-month performance review to see if I get that next raise.
So in our last 6 minutes, I mean, we don't have to have a hard stop, but as we are winding down, what I know about you, having worked at a regular job, right? But also now being your own boss and an entrepreneur, do you have any words you can say to those people who have had to shut down their businesses for good? I mean, I've been watching small businesses say, we have to close our doors, and that was their livelihood, and they're not sure what their next steps are going to be, or people who are surviving right now for the time being, but you know how hard it is to be self-employed in your own person. Do you have any words of encouragement, thoughts, ideas, or that you can share?
With regard to getting back to work?
Yeah, like the getting back to work, the psyche, like anything encouraging or anything like concrete. Yeah.
I do. And there's an old saying in show business, be nice to the people on the way up, because you're going to see them again on the way down. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs will see when they open up. If they were not kind to people, if they're not fair to people when their business was booming, those people will tend to gravitate toward the people who were that way to them. So people do, it's almost human nature to hold a grudge in a way if people have been unkind to you. It's what I call the wow versus pow with regard to customer service. We remember negativity more than we do the positive things. We don't have to wow people anymore, but we better eliminate those pow moments, the times when we kicked them in the stomach and that kind of thing. So going back to work, you'd better be nice to everybody. You better be kind to everybody. You'd better be sensitive to even if you think it's silly that they have 2 pair of rubber gloves on, you'd better be kind and understand, oh, that person needs 2 pairs. Let's get another set of gloves for them. Let's get a brand new mask. Let's provide those. I always loved restaurants that would provide readers with the menu. Have for people as they're coming in, makes them comfortable. They'll remember that more than they will higher prices or lower discount prices or whatever you think they will like. You better operate on their level, not your own.
Yeah, now more than any time,
Yeah.
that humanitarian piece of just really caring about each other and being thoughtful and considerate and empathetic, and our faith, helps guide that as well. I think that we can't forget, because everybody's stressed out.
Oh.
Everybody's concerned, or cautiously optimistic. You've got people on all places on the spectrum of what people should be doing. And thank goodness I'm not a decision maker in the economy right now, because, you know, you can't please everybody.
No.
But what you can do is show caring and thoughtfulness to everybody. And not everybody has to agree with you. Not everybody has to view, not everybody will view next steps the same way, and that's okay, because it's America, and you know, we're free thinkers. And but I think we are stronger together when we can put our heads together and, you know, be solution minded and creative. And before, in the last couple of minutes,
Yeah.
can you give us your expertise on how to set up the best scenario? I don't know, you complimented my drums but
Yes.
if someone is like learning how to do a nice Zoom, you mentioned like don't slouch. Are there a couple of other, because like I have my light. Are you proud of me?
Oh, look at you. Yes, good for you.
I have a light. Are there some other tips you can give us from the business?
Yes. Well, with regard to communicating through this lens kind of thing.
Like how to set up a nice, you know.
Yeah, I think all of you out there who are thinking about doing this should consider that now you're hosting a television show. And there are plenty of videos on YouTube that will tell you how to set up a home studio. It's not expensive. You already have most of the equipment, but like Priscilla said, get a couple of lights so that you're not sitting in the dark. I have a light here. I have a light here. They bounce off the wall. I provided a screen so that I can show images on the back. Now, this is something that I'm going to tell you one other thing that men won't necessarily get used to, but if you're on television, put on makeup, buy a little, get somebody to show you what kind of little thing that would take the shine off of your bald head, anything like that, because now you're competing with television shows. You're competing with Netflix. You're competing with anybody else out there who's trying to communicate through this little lens. It's important, and it will be more important in the future than ever before, as we've now learned how to work at home. That genie is out of the bottle now. So you have to get good at that and communication as well. So pay attention and go on YouTube and look at some. Oh, can I plug my own YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, because it's I don't sell. I've written 9 books, but I don't sell books. If they sell, that's great. But I offer a lot of things for free. And so if you go on YouTube and put in Ross Shafer, and I'll go back so you can see how to spell my name. But I have 154. I think I've got 154 videos now. Of where did I go?
Our first guest tonight.
Yeah, nice one. They're all free, and Priscilla's watched a lot of them, but they're on all kinds of different business topics. Ross Shafer on YouTube, you'll find it.
Awesome. Okay, so just to recap what we talked about today, you know, how to stay relevant, who succeeds, who fails, you know, what can we do to prepare for this next wave of education and life and reality and the herd mentality. I mean, we talked about so many relevant, concrete things that we can utilize going forward. And so I would just ask that people share this video so that we can help more people. You know, we want everybody to be successful, and we want to get back to, you know, working and being with loved ones and hugging and all of those good things. So thank you, Ross, so much for being so generous with your time.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Big corporations hire you to speak all over the globe, and you've given your time for us today. Do you have any last things that you want to share?
Well, I would just say that Priscilla's right. If you would share this, then you are helping the economy get restarted. These are the things that I've talked about will be truisms forever, but you can learn how to adapt to this new economy, and that makes the country better. That makes the world better. Take it upon yourself to say, all right, I can change the way I do business, and that will help people. There is something that Priscilla and I and her husband Darren have talked about a lot, and if we can just get outside of ourselves and have more of a servant attitude toward the people we work with that are working with us in our companies, and the people that we serve, those customers, the clients, the constituents, the members, whoever they are, then you will have a sustainable enterprise. If you make it all about yourself, you're not scaling yourself, you're not scaling your business, and you'll go by the wayside pretty fast. When you talk about who fails and who succeeds, the people who succeed are the ones who think about others. That servant attitude will come back to you. And that will be more of your legacy than any money you made or any house that you lived in. So I would encourage people to do that.
Well, thank you, Ross. Hashtag Humology.
Yeah.
Right? Hashtag Humology. Well, we love you from the Rons to you, and have a wonderful day and a great week, and stay healthy.
Thank you. Thanks very much.